Thank you so much, Helen. Thank you all for being here, and especially thank you to the three incredible panelists that are going to be speaking at today's event. Change Begins at Home, Intersectionality of Disability, Voting, and the Latino Community. My name is Amanda Pearlstein. I'm an attorney at Disability Rights New York. Visual description, I am a white female in my 30s with short dark hair wearing a black dress. So what I'm going to do is just introduce each panelist briefly with their bio, backstory, and then we'll hear for about 15 minutes from each panelist about their role in community advocacy, voting, and their activism and their work. And then at the end, we'll have about 5 minutes for Q&A. So I'll go ahead and get started with Rebecca Escobar. Rebecca Escobar is the Vice President of the New Brunswick, New Jersey City Council, where she is serving her third term as a council member. She is the current council liaison to the Housing Authority and is a member of numerous advisory boards. She is also the program director for youth advocacy programs of Middlesex County. Rebecca has worked in community service since 1987. She helped implement and design culturally sensitive health education programs with Robert Wood Johnson University Hospital and served as the coordinator of the domestic violence unit to the New Brunswick Police Department's Community Partnership Program, amongst other roles at the program. Since 2007, she has worked on youth advocacy through Project Connect and as the director of youth service program at PRAB, where she developed social and educational programs for city youth. Rebecca lives in New Brunswick. She has a daughter, Fabiola, and 2 grandchildren, Maurice and Alani Amelia. Our second panelist is Eddie Cuesta. And Eddie Cuesta is the National Executive Director at Dominicanos, USA. Eddie provides management and supervision for civic engagement, voter registration, and citizenship. Prior to joining Dominicanos USA, Eddie served as a recruitment strategist at the City University of New York Murphy Institute School of Professional Studies, where he was responsible for the development of successful recruitment for certificate and academic degree programs at the undergraduate and graduate levels. Earlier in his career, he worked in the money remittance industry in roles ranging from general manager at Envios Abreu y Collado Ltd. To corporate account and area development manager for the Northeast region at Seagate Corporation. Eddie has a bachelor's degree in international studies from the City University of New York City College. He serves on numerous boards, including NMIC and the Dr. Nasri Michelin Foundation. He also serves on the Hostos Community College Advisory Council. And finally, we have José Hernandez, who is the NYC President and Advocacy Coordinator for the United Spinal Association. José is a C5 quadriplegic due to a spinal cord injury he sustained when he was 15 years old. After his injury, he developed a passion for mentoring others with similar disabilities, including individuals in nursing homes and rehabilitation centers. In 2011, José had the opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. as part of United Spinal's Roll on Capitol Hill annual event. This trip ignited an interest in advocacy, and he has been back to D.C. frequently, as well as advocating on state and city issues. He is currently the NYC Advocacy Coordinator for United Spinal Association and the president of United Spinal's New York City chapter. In 2019, José was appointed by Mayor Bill de Blasio to be commissioner of the NYC Civic Engagement Commission to ensure that the city includes individuals with disabilities in all aspects of civic engagement. So incredible panel that we have lined up today. I'm very excited to start with Councilwoman Escobar. I guess we'll start with you to speak about your work, your advocacy, and kind of what got you involved in local politics and city council.
Okay, good afternoon. Thank you for having me. I am Councilwoman Escobar. I am a Latina woman. I am wearing glasses, salt and pepper hair. I'm wearing a powder blue shirt, and I am sitting at my desk with the background. In the back is my office. It's a wall full of pictures. So thank you for having me. To me, getting involved in politics, in local politics, was a natural progression to the work that I have done in the community. I have worked for many years in the social services field, in community-based organizations. There's the Puerto Rican Action Board. That evolved into working for Robert Wood Johnson University Hospital. It evolved to work in a police department with the Police Community Partnership Program. And I was the first coordinator of the domestic violence unit at the police department. So it's a passion for me working in the community. I think that it is in me, it's in my vein. I am the daughter of a social worker. So it was ingrained in me that the need to help others and to make sure that the community that we are at, and by the way, this was my past in Jersey. I wasn't planning to stay. I came here to go to school, and I was planning to return to Puerto Rico, which as 40 something years later, I'm still here in New Jersey. So just the passion to work with the community, making sure that we have the access to services and programs that the Latino and African American community need, and that is done in a cultural sensitive way. So it took me into this path of law politics. The opportunity presented itself, and it was like, yes, I approached. I'm not the first Latina in the council. There was a previous Latina, Blanquita Valenti, who recently passed away. So I went to her and I said, the day that you retire, let me know that you don't want to be in city council anymore, because I'm interested. And the rest is history. I'm still here in the city.
Thank you so much. Could you tell us a little bit about kind of the current work that you're doing as the Vice President of the City Council?
Well, the council the council in New Brunswick is 5 members. We're elected at large. So the vice president is mainly, what it does is just to support the president. The president of the council is one that facilitates the meetings and go to all these activities and different events that they are invited. So my role is just to support her. She is doing it throughout the meetings, to serve there with her, whatever she needs. In her absence, I will be the one in the meeting. And just participating as every other member in the council of different activities and addressing issues that the community bring forth to us. So it sounds more glamorous than what is actually is.
No, it sounds very impressive. And so you've had a long history of advocacy in youth work, youth advocacy. What got you involved in that? And what kind of work have you done through YAP and the other youth organizations?
Well, youth has been a passion of mine. I think that we need to invest more in our youth, their future. Working with families, you get to see also the children and how generations grow, right? And they're part of the community. You also see the changes in demographics and the different challenges that each member of our community has, right? New Brunswick has shifted the demographics between majority of Puerto Ricans, a Puerto Rican community, to Dominicans, from Dominicans to Mexican. Now we are a melting pot, which most of our, with almost 49% Latinos, and most of them are Mexican. So, so you need to all be versed in the different areas and addressing the issues. And youth, to me, you know, our youth, I call them our kids. You know, our kids are the future, and you see a lot of how the environment, the systemic issues that we have in this country, and other factors impact them. And just being able, through my work here at the youth advocacy programs, and when I work at other agencies that I have worked, is just, you know, I love it. That's my passion, just to be able to impact the life of a child or a young person, that all they require is love, and make sure that they have the wraparound services and the support needed to move forward in life. I usually, my work is mostly with youth at risk, and now with youth who are more involved. So even more so, you know, those are our kids that need to know that there's people that care, there's people that believe in them. And usually my motto and my logo with my staff and everything is that whatever you did in your past doesn't define your future. So even if I had done some minor things, whether it doesn't matter, we can all redeem ourselves and move forward if we have the right elements and the right support in the community of our children to help them out.
That's incredible. That, you know, that reminds me of the civil rights leader Brian Stevenson saying that we're all more than the worst thing we've ever done. You know, he was saying about people who are incarcerated, and that's even more true of youth who need to be given that chance and that second chance. What would you say, I mean, in your work with as a youth advocate, what has been the most rewarding kind of experience or change, either based on the policy level or with an individual client or child?
Youth Advocate Program is a national organization. We have offices throughout 28 states and outside of the United States, also in Europe and in Central America. Each office is unique in the services that they provide. In the national level, Youth Advocate has been a pioneer advocating for changes in the juvenile justice system for our kids. We believe that kids thrive and do better when they are in their communities, when they have the support of the community. And we have done a lot of work to change policies and address those challenges. Locally, to me, it's just the fact that you are able to see the kids, you are able to see, I always say that our job is to put seeds in their hearts, right? We need to put hope, we need to put support, we need to put love, and we need to give them what they need. And it's not our job to see those seeds grow, but just to make sure they're there and they will grow at their time. And just to see kids, sometimes just to give an example, once I have 2 kids here, and we looked, when I was passing by, I say, hey, why are you here? Or, I knew the program, why they were referred, but I want to hear from them. And I asked them, why are you here? And they said, Miss, we're bad. And that broke my heart, and I said, no, you're not. Don't let anybody say ever to you that you're bad. You made some mistakes, and that's why you're here. But that doesn't mean that you're bad. You just need an extra help and make sure that we give you the service that you need and support so you don't make those mistakes again. That to me is the most rewarding, when you have the ability to empower our kids to see beyond their mistakes or beyond some of the weaknesses that they might have.
That's incredible. That's so cool to see the scope of that work being done on the national level down to the local and community and individual level. That's so important on all of those. And I guess speaking of which, you are involved in so many different kind of coalitions and alliances. Can you tell us a little bit more, about that work, and also about how just the benefits of forming those alliances and how you can get work done through that kind of work?
Well, I always tell people that you cannot do this work alone. You cannot work in silo. Some people might tend to think that local government can do it by themselves and local agencies can do it by themselves, or not. We need everybody's input. The best way, we are blessed in New Brunswick that we have a group of stakeholders that have been working together for many years. So we know each other, we trust each other, and we help support the different services and different initiatives that we have. Without the community partners, without those stakeholders, it's very hard to move forward as a community. You need everyone involved, and you need to have the voice of those also that usually you do not hear. So it's important to create those solutions and partnerships to be able to move forward the work that you want to do.
Absolutely. What would you say are some of the best ways for people, especially members of the Latino community and people with disabilities, to get involved in local politics and to make changes on that level?
I think that the most important, I would say, is like you vote is important. Sometimes we don't think it is, or sometimes we pay more attention, right, to the presidential election because there is national, but we need to realize the impact that we can have in the low level, local government. So I will say that be passionate, be vocal, try to identify agencies and organizations in your local community that are doing work related to either housing, employment, anything that you're interested in. You need to be engaged. We all need to be engaged. When we are all engaged, we can impact in local government. It impacts the budget, the money that is going to be spent in that city for fire, public safety, quality of life issues. So you have the opportunity to attend council meetings. If you are not able to join an organization and volunteer, join council, the city council meeting. You know, you have an opportunity to express your concerns there. Call your local mayor's office. Don't be afraid, you know, and express your concerns. We have, and I don't say because it's me, I'm there, and I'm at the council and the Latina that, but we have seen since I started, you know, there was again, because of the shift of the demographics, when I started, before I started, there was hardly any, you didn't see Latinos in those city council meetings at all, expressing any concerns. When I got there, because of demographic changes, because of local organizations doing more active work, advocacy work in the community, we started seeing more the Latino community come in and giving their concerns. And I love that. It's like, yes, you know, so that is important. And through that, because of their participation, we were able to enact an ordinance affecting residents of New Brunswick, but mainly the Latino community, because they came to us seeking assistance. So your voice matters. So go vote, be involved, engage, be passionate. If you might have an idea of something that somebody might say, okay, no, at this time, it doesn't matter. Keep trying, maybe another year, it will come to fruition, but keep involved, keep yourself involved and do not give up. And be open, right? Because we need to be open to listen to others and try to work something that at the end, I think everybody's working for the same thing, the betterment of our community, but we just have to be a little willing to listen to each other and participate.
That's excellent. Thank you. That's so many different avenues for helping bring about change, and voting in particular. Are there any specific issues on the ballot right now in your area that are for 2021 that you think people should be on the radar?
We don't have anything on the ballot right now. We just recently had elections for Board of Education, which is another one that sometimes some people tend not to participate as much. So Board of Education is important. If you have elections, every city is different. Some of them are appointed, some of them are elected. In Brunswick, are elected. So it's important to have our voices heard, the participation, especially when you have a city where over 85, and I would dare say 90% of the students are Latinos. So we need to be out there voting. And sometimes we tend not to, because it's not, okay, it doesn't concern me. Yes, it does. Your children are there. So we need to make ensure. We do have at city council level, you know, this is the time when budgets, city budgets are starting to are formulated, are presented. So you have an opportunity as a resident also to voice your concern. If there's an area that you have more, an area that worries you, that's your opportunity to come out and give your opinion. So we have that going on. We just last night passed the first reading of budget. So it should be coming up in June 16 that we will be discussing more about it. So there's always opportunity.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Councilwoman Escobar. We really appreciate it. And we'll come back to you at some point for the Q&A, I believe. But right now, we're going to move on to speak to Eddie Cuesta, the National Executive Director of Dominicanos USA. Thank you, Mr. Cuesta.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you very much. This really change begin at home. My name is Eddie Cuesta. I'm the Executive Director of Dominicanos USA. I am Afro-Caribbean, you know, dark skin. I'm wearing a pink shirt and a striped navy blue tie and a blue jacket. I really dress for this because I think it's so important, you know, bringing together this type of gathering, especially in such difficult time after, you know, a very difficult year that we have had. As the director of Dominicanos USA, I can start saying that Dominicanos USA is a non-for-profit, nonpartisan organization that started in 2013 at a Bronx Community College in the South Bronx. A group of business people from the Dominican Republic felt it was very important to really engage a growing community of more than 2 million in the United States to really participate and become an architect of their own future by participating in the electoral process. You know, our mission has been to empower the community, Dominican community, and anybody else that we come in contact with through voter registration, which was our first program that we started. We started developing what we call a Dominican model, where we went to different neighborhoods, where Dominicans reside, not only in New York, but we also did it in other states such as Rhode Island that had a large population of Dominicans. We did, do a lot of door knockings and going to the different community events, health fairs, parades, and we brought out the message to the community that it was important to register to vote because that way they could have a voice. One of the things that we encountered was, in many instances, there were people that basically from the Dominican Republic and anybody else that we came in contact with, that in many instances, they were not US citizens. So we, in 2015, developed a program through the support of the Carnegie Corporation, and again, Dominican business people, to support a citizenship program for those, that we came in contact with, as we manage a lot of data to help them become US citizens. Basically, the first question when you ask if you are, if you register to vote, if you are US citizens, when we found that, we developed a very substantial list because we are very technical, technology-driven organization. In the work that we have done in voting, we already have registered more than 175,000 people. In New York alone, over 125,000. And this was very important because a lot of the people that we reach out, they had families, they were not registered to vote. So this gave us an opportunity to really gain the trust of the community. So our citizenship program, boom, just developed. We started to help support those legal permanent residents to a path to citizens in our office, which was located in the South Bronx. And apart from that, we partner with CUNY and other institutions in bringing it out to the community and doing larger events, getting attorneys, that could do the pro bono review, making sure we could support them with the fee waivers. And I cannot tell you exactly what we went through, in the last few years, several years, where, immigrants had really, been, were attacked. They considered increasing their fees. They considered, they changed the citizenship questionnaire for the civic exam. And some of those things were very concerning. So we continue supporting our community. And, as we could not do it in person, we went and started a virtual program, which has proven to be very successful. And on a monthly basis, we register close to 50 people, and we are able to provide close to 70, 80% of helping them with the application and the fee waiver. As a matter of fact, this coming Saturday, we have in our monthly citizenship events where we partner with other organizations, that really help us. But getting to, when it comes to election and citizenship, we found that there's a marriage, is connected, okay? And especially in New York, when we first started, we encountered that there was not sufficient education. One of the things that we found is that people registered and many times they did not put the political party. In New York, you win the election practically during primaries. So, that was something that we were very concerned, and we started to educate the community. We also developed what we call a student voter registration program, visiting schools, talking to young people, as well as providing, very important information because it's education. In basically all of the election, we have what we call a get out the vote. We go out and make phone calls, texting, emails, sending out postcards. We provide assistance, to the community. If they just presently, we develop an online voter registration platform, as New York doesn't have, online voter registration. And if you have a motor vehicle ID, you are able to register automatically. If you don't, they can always call us, at dominicanosusa.org, or call us at our number, where we will be very supportive. What led to the position as executive director is my passion for the community, working, in seeing through, my work at the college, working in the remittance business. We found that many people send a lot of money back to their country. So we knew, how difficult it was for many of the community that we serve to really have an understanding of the politics and understanding, exactly how they could participate, in civic engagement. Besides helping the community to register them to vote, we also have a partnership with the New York Historical Society where we used to do it in our office, but since, COVID started, we took it virtually. and basically has been a very successful program where we support and help people how to pass the civic test. We also have, before COVID, we used to go every Friday to the United States Immigration Naturalization Services, where we registered new citizens, and that was very, very important. Our organization is engaged, doing a lot of, we used to do a lot of face-to-face. Now doing virtually has, we have seen that it has been very successful. I have a group of young and old like myself, middle-aged, that really is very concerned in some of the needs that we have in our community. I also can add that the kind of work that we do, when it comes to involving people with disability, at DUSA, we coordinate, we have coordinated in the past, where we have done ride share for the elderly and those in need. We provide support in past election, in terms of transportation. Translation has been a very big issue where we have been very helpful with that. And we share information on their rights, which is also very, very important. I could add a little anecdote that I feel very proud of. When we were doing outdoor voter registration, one of the things that we encountered was, knocking on doors. We came upon a particular person that was disabled who lived on the 4th floor in the South Bronx. And one of the things he had mentioned to our canvasser was that he had not registered because he couldn't get out. He didn't know. So we were able to register. He says, yes, I commit myself to registering if on election day, this was a few years ago, you will come and pick us up, pick me up and take me to the poll site. And we did. It was on the 4th floor, because we had transportation. We hired, a local livery cab companies. And we made sure, that some of the vehicles that we had the accessibility access. And I always remember that because it became part of a documentary based on that, testimony from that particular person. So, I mean, this is the type of work that we do. We have that passion to really connect with everyone, as well as, during our summer youth employment program, where we had, young people going out into the community. One of the things that we trained them was, if you see anybody that's, has, disabilities in a wheelchair, whatever it is, going to the nursing homes, senior citizen centers, make sure you take time to talk to them, tell them how important it is. And I think that's some of the work that really have, expanded in terms of the trust that DUSA has, and I think it's very important, for organizations like yourself, that has been, since 1989 advocating, for disability rights. It's important because just meeting with other partners, as we call it, we partner with the NYC Campaign Finance Board, the League of Women Voters, Hispanic Federation. We noticed several years ago that there was some of the poll sites were not accessible for ADA. And we went, we testify, we make sure, we push to make sure that, the Board of Elections will really select sites, that will be available for, ADA accessibility. So we have seen they have put these new ramps that you could go into it and really, have the ability to really, transport yourself, as well as the Board of Elections. I could say, they have come a long way. They have a lot of people within the poll sites that are able to support and help with people with disability. And also, it's very important because every poll site in New York City has at least one ballot marketing devices, okay, as well as magnifying, sheets that could really look at the ballot. The big issue that we had throughout the years was that the font was very small in the ballot, So this is some of the things that we strongly believe that, we have to continue to advocate and making sure that people with disability are able to really support. Also, another, anecdote that I could say is that when we used to do the in-person activity for helping to prepare the citizenship application, which is about 20 pages, one of the important needs that we had was to get translators. And through our efforts, we were able to get people with disability impairment that became, and supported us. as translators, and they still continue to do so. So, we are available. We're always looking for volunteers in what we do. And I like to say that when we talk about disability, we are talking about accessibility, and furthermore, equitable accessibility for our community. This leads into, voter awareness and information, which is the biggest challenge, for our community. For example, in New York, if you're visually impaired or cannot mark a paper ballot, you can still vote by mail. You could request your absentee ballot, especially during COVID. We had a great experience, last year, where, people didn't know what was going to happen, if poll sites would be closed. And our team was very instrumental in really, reaching out to the community and providing them information and helping them with absentee ballot. Right now in New York, we're having on June 22nd, our primary, which will be one of the most important elections, because practically the entire city council is going to be up for election because of term limits. We're going to have a new mayor elected, city controller, public advocate, and borough presidents. So it's important because who we select is very important to take the future of this city, moving forward after the COVID pandemic. The other work that we have done, because we have access, is I'm part of the vaccine task force. We provided a lot of information about testing sites and the opportunity to really call and go to locations that are accessible. One of the things that I'm very concerned is those people with disability that are homebound. I understand that the city, through the fire department, is able to provide the vaccine, and that's something that we should be doing more advocacy in terms of making sure those people that are not able to get to, and transport themselves to a vaccination site, that they could do it. As well as, I could say, the biggest issue that we have in language access, has become very important by law. New York City ballots and other voting materials are translated in different languages: Bengali, Chinese, Korean, and Spanish, at certain poll sites, depending on the census data. So, our goal is to make space for our community in the electoral process, as I mentioned. And as the state requires, accessibility to wheelchairs, mandate other laws. It doesn't mean it's also, accessible to all the Latino, but we have to continue with that. We also coordinate, when I was mentioning the ride share, that's very important. So we're in the process. Last year, we had the opportunity to teaming up with ARC for Washington in Washington Heights, to see, they volunteer to support, to transportation. So now we are in discussion to really see if we can find some livery companies that could really help us. The other thing is that we have something that's new. Last year we had, something that was new. We had early voting poll sites. Early voting poll sites are completely different. For 9 days, you were able to go to certain early poll sites at different hours, but it's different from an election day. So it's very important for, the person that is going out to vote to really check, the poll site location. It's very accessible. They could go to our website. They could go to the Board of Election. We have something called Ranchos Voting, which my colleague who's in this meeting, Haviland, has been educating a great deal of, this particular, issue where you could select up to 5 candidates. And I think it's an opportunity to really, study who, the candidates and make a better selection.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. This is incredible. I love hearing about just the way that Dominicanos USA has really responded so quickly to new issues as they arise, and how the organization has really evolved in response to these, from the voter registration to the citizenship work to the disability advocacy. It's really incredible. Thank you. I'm going to move on now to our final panelist before we do our Q&A. So our final panelist, Mr. José Hernandez, is going to speak to us a little bit about his work as the advocacy coordinator for New York City for United Spinal, and his work as a voting rights advocate for people with disabilities.
Hello. Again, my name is Jose Hernandez. I want to touch on a couple of things that Rebecca and Eddie has said. As far as Rebecca, it's interesting. It does start at home, and it starts with our youth. I grew up in New York City when it was a very different time. The crime rate was really high. And I'm gonna go rewind back. I am a 40-year-old Latino wearing a black shirt with a office scene in the background with a flag over to my right. And I have short black hair, wearing a headset. Yeah, with that out of the way, sorry. Rebecca said it starts at home, and as I was saying, New York had a very high crime rate, and our elected officials didn't look like us, and our police officers didn't look like us, and we didn't feel the need or feel that our voices really mattered. So my family really didn't encourage me to vote, and because of my disability, I became an advocate in my own right, because I needed to advocate for everything, and I needed all the services. So that's where my advocacy comes in, because it wasn't really taught at home. And Rebecca said that, no kid is bad. It's just that we're a product of our own communities, and with the support of individuals like Rebecca and schools and people around us, we are taught that we can outgrow our communities and do something better. Sorry.
Thank you. Yes. So I guess, can you tell us a little bit more about how you got your start in voting advocacy work and kind of what that work has meant to you over the past few years?
Yep. Accidentally, I was attending one of the chapter meetings for United Spinal, and just through that, one of the mentors from the chapter put my name in the mix to go to the first roll on Capitol Hill. So just a little context on the roll on Capitol Hill. The roll on Capitol Hill is United Spinal's signature event where they bring in advocates from across the country. We've had advocates as far away from Hawaii to come and advocate for the rights of individuals across the country. So when I was invited, I went down to Washington, D.C. And I always say this, here I was, a poor Puerto Rican from the South Bronx, sitting in Washington, D.C., not only advocating for myself, but for individuals across this country. And it was one of the most powerful things I have done to this day. And it ignited a fire in me, to make sure that individuals with disabilities have a seat at the table and our voices are heard.
It's fantastic. What's some of the work that you guys have done specifically with the intersection of racial justice and disability rights work? And kind of what are some of the challenges you've encountered as an advocate?
So basically, as an advocate, it's just knowledge. Here we are 30 years after the passage of the Americans Disabilities Act, and people with disabilities are usually the last ones to be thought of. And maybe not of the fault of the politicians or just the businesses in general, it's just not common knowledge. So people, when they make a decision, whether it be accessibility or voting rights, they do it without the input of the disabled community. So we usually are left to come and advocate after the fact, instead of being a part of the conversation and have things made inclusively from the ground up.
Yeah, that's so critical. I love that. That needs to be from the start, inclusive of people with disabilities, not just as an afterthought or as something you have to push for at the end. In terms of your advocacy recently, with the pandemic going on, kind of what has that changed in terms of your outreach and the strategies that you guys use?
So the global pandemic, COVID-19, it affected the disabled community in various ways. One being the home care shortage. I had a home care worker pass away on me, and needed to scramble to get coverage and be able to stay safely in the community, especially given the death rate in nursing homes, which was my other alternative. Thankfully I was able to find coverage in that aspect. So we want to continue to raise that awareness. And as far as the voting rights, last year was a very critical year when it came to voting. And individuals with disabilities don't have the ability to vote independently and privately, just like every other citizen. But the absentee ballot issue, the individuals who are able-bodied, they can fill it in on their own. And that poses a challenge for an individual like myself who has limited mobility in my hands, or someone who is visually impaired, asking and trusting someone that they're going to fill in the ballot the way they wish. As for me, at least I can see the ballot, but still, I should be able to do it privately and independently. So those are the two big challenges that were, the global pandemic. And there are others, we have the lack of access issue. We need we need cost-effective internet for individuals with disabilities and those with who live on fixed incomes.
Absolutely, those are also critical, and I love how we've all been, been pushing for that in terms of the accessible absentee ballots and the ways to ensure that people with disabilities can vote privately and independently in these elections. I guess what would you say is voting in local elections in terms of how people with disabilities and the Latino community can have an impact, and like what basically that speaks about engagement of the communities and how we can make a difference?
It's interesting how people think that the presidential elections are the most important elections, but if you want something changed in your community, local elections are the most important. I'm going to use a simple example of the straw bill that recently passed in the city council here in New York. On a federal level, there is no such thing as a straw bill, but the city council passed a straw bill to limit the use of plastic straws here in the city, with the provision that it be made accessible or available for individuals with disabilities to be able to drink independently. I can't pick up a cup. So the simple fact that there won't be a straw available means that I can't effectively drink on my own. So we let the city council know and advocated that a supply of straws be made available for those who request it. So that's an example of effective change on a local level. So I completely feel that elections on a local level are even more important than the ones are on our presidential level.
Absolutely, and I mean, just that example with the straws speaks to how important it is to have people with disabilities, not just as advocates, but in positions of leadership. So somebody could say, hey, we need to make this a factor when we consider in these laws. So absolutely, thank you so much. I think now it's a good time to go to Q&A since we only have about 10 minutes left in the presentation.
I want to say one more thing.
Absolutely.
I'm one of the commissioners of the Civic Engagement Commission, and as a person with a disability, we need to be more involved in our community boards to affect changes in our communities on a local level. Even I, as a commissioner living in the South Bronx, have experienced some kind of hesitancy or just lack of knowledge from my community board itself when they send out materials and they don't send it out in an accessible form. So, and I'm going to continue fighting them and making sure that they provide me with access, and I continue to make changes on a local level. So, yep.
Absolutely. What's something you think that as civil rights advocates, as voting advocates, that we can do to ensure that all voices are heard, including people with disabilities? What would you say is the best way to affect change?
Make yourself present, make yourself known, and introduce yourself to elected officials. I know a few of them personally and by name, and I'm reaching out to my congressman, Ricky Torres, so I can personally speak to him and tell him my story so he knows one of his constituents in his district.
That's great. I think that's something that all three of you guys have spoken to today is about reaching out to your local officials and not being shy to make your voice heard and to realize that we're all part of this process together. It's not these kind of remote, distant figures politics is personal, it is local, and you can have an impact by speaking up.
I could even, I want to invite Eddie to reach out to me so we can talk about his disability platform. I graduated from Brunswick Community College, and I'm only a stone throws away from Hostess Community College. So, you know, if you want to add another Latino disability advocate on your side, you know, speak to me, reach out to me.
We'd love to have you join us.
Yep, and I would love to join.
Awesome, this is great. Thank you so much, Jose. So we already have a question from the chat. We're going to shift to, I'm going to ask the questions that all three panelists can respond to as the questions arise. Somebody in the chat did ask, so given the challenges presented by COVID, what are some of the barriers that are important for us to address as a Latino community? And they said, for example, have people been vaccinated? Is the work harder because you can no longer go door to door in person, et cetera?
I could answer, I think that from our experience in New Jersey, not New York, New Jersey, Brunswick, we have seen there's a hesitancy in our community to get vaccinated. That hasn't hampered our efforts to make sure that everybody gets vaccinated, but it's a very personal decision. So the only way that you know, we have been working with the local hospital, city, and some other organizations to go door to door. You know, we have a big one coming up, a big vaccination clinic, and talking to people to educate them on vaccination. We had the webinars in English and in Spanish through the Board of Education, the hospitals, talking about with doctors, Latino doctors talking, and also African American doctors talking about vaccines, talking about trying to ease the concerns that are valid, that the community has, you know, because of the history that had happened in the past in this country. So there's a lot of hesitancy. So we're trying to go to door, you know, make sure that they know. It's funny because parents are more willing to have their kids get the vaccine than themselves. We have found that. There's also religious aspects, you know, it's out there. That's some pastors, religious leaders do not believe in it. So we have to also work with that challenge. There's some barriers, but with the barriers, there's always opportunities. And that's what we're trying to say, make sure New Brunswick was listed as one of the worst cities in the state with the vaccination rate. We are at 30%. So we are working hard to make sure that there's access to vaccines to our communities. We are going to senior buildings to provide the vaccine. And so for those seniors who might have mobility challenges, we are going to communities, you know, trying to food pantries, churches, anybody who's willing to have a clinic through the county, through the city and the hospital. We have one every almost a day. Different hours, so you cannot make it at hours people cannot make it. So we are doing Saturdays, Sundays, trying to, as best as we can, to ensure that everybody gets vaccinated for the sake of all. But again, it's a very personal decision, but we try to ensure that people know that we have it and we are available for them.
I just want to add to what Rebecca said. You know, I think it's very important as the city's opening up that we continue to advocate in making sure, you know, that people get vaccinated. There's a big question right now. They should remove the mask. You know, you don't know who's vaccinated, but I think that's a very important, you know, challenge that we have moving forward, especially now we're coming into the warm weather. So it's trusted messaging, you know, that I think will be supportive. The young people, you know, have to be more convinced, you know, to really, you know, get vaccinated. There's a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of new ways, incentives that are being provided by the government, you know, by the city and the state, and we have to take advantage of it. As well as we have to make sure that our businesses are able to open up. You know, we have issues, you know, with housing, as well as education, which is a very important component of how we move forward, jobs. So, you know, those issues also have to go along in making sure that we are able to to advocate and inform those who are running for office, what they're going to be doing, what is the plan. It's not a show. It's basically what will be the results as we move forward in 2021. And then we got to consider ourselves, that we have to, next year's a midterm election, which would be as important to electing a state representative and as well as, the federal representative. So that's also going to be very important. Then we have redistricting, that will be the future. Our funding is going to be invested. So we have a big challenge ahead of us.
I live in one of the hardest hit areas in the Bronx when it comes to COVID-19. I live in one of the hardest hit area codes. And then me personally, I had a few individuals who have died, and one really close to me that took care of me for 12 years who died of COVID-19. And I agree with Rebecca, we need to do more knocking on doors and more peer-to-peer advice. Like, I've had it, why did I get it? And why is it important? So, yeah.
Thank you so much. If does anybody else have questions, you can unmute yourself and ask the question, or you can type it into the chat and Helen or I will read it out for you.
And if you're on the phone, you can unmute yourself by selecting *6.
Amanda, may I say something before the question?
Yes, absolutely.
I just want to encourage everyone, something that Eddie was talking about, and also say, voting is important. Registering to vote is super important. But I think that it's also worth recognizing that communities that have a large number of undocumented immigrants, even though at this point they may not be able to vote, they still have the power to create change and be agents of change. It has been very evident in New Jersey, in our local cities, the power that citizens have and the community to create change. So don't shy away, because you might not be at this time a citizen and you might not be able to vote. That shouldn't preclude you from going out there, making sure that people are listening and that the issues that are affecting their community and that specific community is addressed by local, state, and even federal officials. It's evident by the driver's license. New Jersey is allowing, will have just allowing undocumented residents to have a driver's license, supporting the Dreamers, supporting those initiatives that are there to help our families, protection against their salary being stolen, because there's no other word, from employers that exploit them and do not pay them the right wage. So there is an ability to do change and to create change, even if you're not a citizen yet and you're not able to vote. But if you are, then you have no excuse. Go out there and choose. And somebody put in the chat that it's important to have local officials. So any officials that listen, that's our job. That's why we are public servants. One that doesn't want to listen, and it's hard. Believe me, it's hard. I've been insulted. I've been called racist comments against me. But you just have to be there because you have to look at the larger picture. We're there for a reason. We're elected for a reason, and we need to represent not just one segment, but the whole community that is working with us. Even if we like, they have to say. We have to listen.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councilwoman. That's such an important point that, voting is so critical, but there are also, if you aren't able to vote, if you're not a citizen, there's still so many things you can do to bring about change and to make a difference, and all these local kind of actions that we've been talking about all hour. So thank you so much.
Speak up at your community boards.
Sorry, my name is Antoinette. Hi, yes, I have a question. So we have a lot of mayoral candidates right now who are proposing getting rid of cars in Manhattan. We have congestion pricing, like they've cut off certain streets that cars can go down. I have written to several of these candidates who have not gotten back to me about their plans of improving accessibility. And I was just wondering, how do you get them to take our needs into consideration Like you can contact them, but they never get back to us. So how do you get them to, when they make these plans or things that they propose, that they take our needs into consideration? And also if they, let's say, do have a plan to make an exception for people with disabilities, they don't make that stuff known. So how do you suggest that we get them to say those things out loud if they have considered them, or to just consider them in general?
I'm gonna jump in right from the beginning and say, joining organizations like United Spinal Association or ADAPT or the Democratic 504 Club here in New York City, you know, they have to answer to us, and, you know, even reaching out to the mayor's office with people with disabilities and see what their position is on it. I've had candidates reach out to me and show me their disability platform, not all of them, and some of them have spoken at the 504 meetings. So, and that's where we get a chance to ask them questions.
I can add
Also,
to
I just
that.
wanted
That
to
is
add-
very, very important, Antoinette. It's a great question, you know, that there are, you know, mayoral debates and city council debates. Try to be attentive to know exactly. I think there's 2 more mayoral debate, and you will be able, if, you know, within sufficient time, if you join, to maybe put up the question, you know, to the moderator. And I think that's a way of really, you know, getting their attention, because you're doing it publicly, as well as, you know, doing an op-ed or maybe writing a comment on some of the publications that are available throughout the city, the Gotham Gazettes and others, you know, that are constantly providing information on, you know, the candidacy of many of these individuals that are running for office. But you're right, you know, it's a very important question that really, you know, congestion pricing, I mean, it's, and other issues that we, you know, that we have.
Thank you.
So I want to thank everyone for having me, but I really do have to go. And if you have any additional follow-up questions, please, you can reach out to Amanda or Helen, and I'll be happy to answer them.
I just want to say before we go as well, some important deadlines coming up. May 28th, the voter registration deadline. June 22nd is the primary election. So I just wanted to add that. And then, yeah, so thank you guys all so much for coming. This is fabulous. It was so great to hear from you and all the incredible work you've been doing, and just the changes that you've inspired. Thank you all so much. And like Jose said, if you do have questions that you want to address the panelists, you can email me or Helen. Thank you all so much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you very much. Very kind.